Hi, welcome to HMP's Fear of Snowflakes podcast number 5. I am here with Beth Lennon, and we are here to talk about our favorite generation, Gen Z, in the workforce. Thanks, Beth, for joining me. And what topic are we going to cover today?
So today we're talking about motivation and what motivates Gen Z to want to work, get into the workforce, and what makes them want to come into the office, how
Oh.
you can really get them to stay. So, yeah.
I love it. And I think that's a really good topic because I think we have this misconception of what it takes, one, to motivate in general as leaders, but two, really to get that generation to buy into coming into the office, to participating, and long term to want to commit to a business for any length of time. And when I say length of time, I'm going to caveat that because business owners need to understand a good length of time for a Gen Z is probably 2 to 3 years. And that is a successful amount of time for a Gen Z to commit to an organization. Anything longer than that, and you shouldn't expect that as a business owner, because that generation desires to grow and change and experience lots of different organizations and types of work environments. And so you shouldn't expect them to be like the baby boomer generation that stayed in one work environment for 20, 30 years and retired from that work environment. So when we're talking about this, motivating and keeping employees, we're talking 2 to 3 years, correct?
Yeah, definitely. At least that's what I've seen. Like, I haven't heard of someone staying at a company more than, yeah, three years,
Yeah.
honestly.
And that's what I'm seeing on resumes too when I'm looking at recruiting and hiring is it really is like 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 years if they've gotten growth in the organization, 4 years. And I have to remind employers because they look at that and they're like, oh, they flip jobs. I'm like, no, 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 no. This is standard practice for this generation. And millennials a little bit as well. It's that idea that they want to find the right position. And so they are attempting lots of different types of jobs to figure out exactly where their skills lie and where they can make the most impact and what it is that they really truly desire long term for their career. And so it really is smaller increments. But let's go back to what we were talking about. What is it that we as owners of businesses or HR professionals should be doing to help create the right kind of motivation to get Gen Z into the work environment first?
Well, like you were just saying, Gen Z really values being able to grow in a position, and that's why they are jumping ship after a year or two, because if they feel like they're not able to grow in that position, why stay? You know,
Okay.
we we want to be able to grow, and if a company is not providing the opportunity to, or it's not at the pace that like we think it should be at, then it's better to get experience from multiple different companies and see, is it just me, or is it the company not having that position available for me yet, or are they not providing me the feedback and the growth to be able to move to that new higher position, you know?
So when you say growth, is it really a position? Is it pay range? Is it more responsibility? What does career growth for Gen Z look like? So I'm asking because sometimes for different people, it's I just want more responsibility in my current position. I want more pay in my position, or I really want to be an employee, a supervisor, a manager, a director. I want the actual career path up. What is it that you're talking about when you say growth?
I think growth means, I mean, all of it. Pay,
Okay.
salary upgrade, more responsibility, maybe a manager position, people under you,
Okay.
just feeling like you're making that impact on other people while you're there. If you're a manager, you're able to direct and help the people under you grow. And that's really what Gen Z values is impact too. So,
That's what I was going to ask. I found a lot of the questions I get asked in interviews by Gen Z has a lot to do with their ability to impact or make a difference, is a word they use a lot, is what kind of a difference can they make inside of the organization? What is the job that they're doing? What does that impact the organization? How is that impacting the bottom line? What does it do to better the organization? It really matters what they do. They do not want to be a cog in a wheel. They do not want a job that's just to do a job. I find that if they don't have a good responsibility and a good job description, they won't take the position.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, yeah, like before you even get into the job, you need to specify that and you need to say there is opportunity for you to grow here. These are the next steps you could take if you perform well. This is the path to growth. This is how we will try to like make you as successful as you can be to get to that point is super important because I think people when they get into a job and they're like they feel like they have to stay the whole year because obviously you're not giving them a chance if you're only staying there a couple months, but people don't want to feel like they're wasting time in their career if they already feel like when they first get there that there's no opportunity for them to grow or they're not getting the support from the higher ups to allow them to grow further.
So they want that to start with, like they want to understand that before they even take the position. So part of that negotiation for offer is really what the next steps are, even before they start the position.
Well, not, I mean, maybe, I don't know, but like I'm just saying, like, being clear before you get in the door is important, making sure their job description is clear, as you were saying, and saying to them that there is room for you to grow here. Not
Okay.
exactly like
Not giving them the
exactly what you
exact
do,
growth,
but
but they
like,
need to know that there is. Yeah,
yeah.
I've
But
noticed
I'm
they ask
saying
that
when they're
question.
on the when they're actually on the job, and they get there and the employer sees that maybe they do have the opportunity to grow, then be clear with them at that point and say, I see that you maybe would potentially be a great leader one day. This is how you grow.
Mhm.
And I think that would also make them want to stay more because if they're being told that by someone, then that's their motivation to keep going and to keep wanting to put in that good work so that eventually they will get to the point that they want to be at.
No, I completely agree. There's a few people that I'm coaching, leadership coaching, that they have Gen Z as employees, and that's one of the questions that they've been asking me is, I'm concerned I'm going to lose these employees, and that's what I've been telling them is one, do one-on-ones with your employees regularly, but when you're doing those one-on-ones, let them create the agenda, not you. So
Mhm.
don't come in with a list of what you want to talk about with that employee. Have them create what they want to talk about with you. And then part of what that's going to be that you need to bring to the table is tell them what those next steps of career growth are. Like, hey, I see this in you, or I think you would be good at this, or let's see what your next steps are. What do you want to learn? What are we not teaching you? What in this organization would you like to learn? It may not even be in your own department, right? But what would you like to learn so that you're challenging them in different areas because you got to keep them enticed. It looks like there always has to be something that challenges them for them to want to continue to be with you, it looks like. They don't want to stay stagnant. They're never going to be happy even if they get a really good paycheck. It's strange. They're unique this way. Because like Gen X, if we got a good paycheck, we don't care if we're doing work or not. I mean, like we'll do the same stupid thing over and over again if we're getting a paycheck because, what it is what it is. Don't get me wrong, that's not everybody, but that can happen. Your generation, oh no, you're not going to sit there and collect a paycheck if you don't feel like you're making an impact, you have a chance to grow, or that you enjoy the work, right? It's not going to happen. You'd rather not work than do something that is not making an impact. Is that correct?
Yeah, and I think
It's
that comes
wild.
from our brains have been stimulated since we were so young because of the internet, social media, our
Yes.
phones.
That
Yeah.
stupid little thing right there. Yeah.
So when we're bored, it doesn't matter if we're getting that paycheck. We don't have motivation to go into the office to do work. So if you just keep putting people in different areas that they're not used to and keep throwing things at them to make them learn something, one, it's very good for just like their overall career growth, but also it'll keep them engaged and wanting to keep learning more and wanting to get good at stuff. Like I feel like Gen Z really, if they have something and they want to learn, they really want to get good at it. And like for me, I don't like being confused. So when there's something that I want to learn, then I like work my hardest so that I can get to the point where I feel comfortable and confident in it. So if you just keep throwing things at them and allowing them to learn in different parts of the organization, then that could also help keep them entertained and stay at the company for longer.
That's so true. And you know what? Now I feel like I'm your next app, right? As the business owner, I feel like I have to be the app for you. I'm like, okay, what do I give you to do next so that you keep being stimulated and engaged? But it's not a bad thing. It really truly does mean though, as a business owner, we have to strategically think about you as a hire. We have to strategically go, okay, so this may be the job that we want done now, but when we're getting ready to hire you, what else do we think you could do? What else do we want to grow in our company? And can we add that to your job as you move forward? And it actually is kind of cool because as a business owner, and you're a great example, and I'm going to use you, Beth, in this podcast, because when I brought you on to HMP, there was this much of what I wanted you to do. But you were like, give me more, give me more. What else can I do? You know, I want to learn. And you have grown and branched out in so many different areas because strategically, I'm like, okay, well, I could use help in here. I wonder if that would be something Beth would want to do, or I could use help here. I could use help here. And then once you started to grow in these areas, it was like creating an app. I was like, okay, let's add this and let's add this and let's add this. And you were like immediately jumping into all of these key areas. And so, as a business owner, I'm learning when I needed to do that in advance. So I wasn't doing it sporadically. You've been great about learning it sporadically. But as businesses are doing this, they should really start to develop that early on so that they can motivate people long term. So um, word to the wise, create the job description for people, but have the next steps in advance before you go out to the market to hire. So you're ready not only to talk about it with your potential candidates, but you're also ready to develop them in the first 6 months. Because I really do think your generation's very, very smart and
Mhm.
they pick things up very quickly. And so you need to be having those conversations within the first 3 months, 90 days, give them 90 days to always get adjusted to a job and a company and a culture. But within the first 90 days, you should start being able to talk to them and saying, hey, so this is what I'm thinking next, and this is what I'm thinking next. And you may not be ready right away, but I want you to know that these are the next steps so that you are ready to say, okay, I know that there's some growth and opportunity here. Tell me something though, is your generation one that's willing to push back and say, whoa, I'm not ready for that yet, or I'm overwhelmed, or I need more time in what I'm currently doing, or that's not something that interests me? Or is your generation more passive and not willing to stand into that gap with a business owner?
I would say they're not afraid to speak up for if they think that it's not something that they can take on right now. But I also think we're very willing to learn and a lot of times just put a lot on our plates. And then
Okay.
maybe there'll be some pushback that's like, okay, I think I put too much on my plate. I need to step away from this or something. Because I think Gen Z is very self-aware. So if they take on a task and they realize they can't do a good job at it, then it's not something they should be doing right now. And it should be something that should wait for the future.
And so, how do they handle it if the boss sees that instead of them and pulls it back? Is that demotivating to them or is that okay? Like, so if I said, "Hey, Beth, it looks like you got way too much. I'm not seeing the results in some of these key areas that we need stuff done. I'm going to take some of this stuff back because it seems like maybe it's too much for you right now." How does that motivate or demotivate you as an employee?
I don't think it's demotivating necessarily. I just think that the conversation needs to be had. Gen Z loves to hear feedback.
Oh,
So if
good.
they're getting that honest conversation, but at the same time, that can't be the first time the employer is like having a one-on-one with them. Like
Yeah, oh,
if
totally.
they if they are like with them every step of the way, then you have that conversation saying that this looks like it's too much for you. Then you're like, okay, I trust them. Like they have seen my work in the past and they know I can't do this, rather than like you're just some employee and they're just throwing all this stuff at you without really even seeing a lot of or like giving you feedback on a lot of your other stuff, you know? Like if they really
Yeah.
know you, they know what you can handle.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. And that's a unique difference also for your generation. So for my generation, it wouldn't matter if I was totally sinking and like totally drowning. if my boss came to me and said, "Hey, I'm going to pull this off your plate because you're drowning," I would be insulted beyond all belief. Even though I knew it needed to come off my plate, I don't care how many times I'd had the conversation, I would be super insulted. And that's a difference in generation. Like, I would feel like I wasn't capable of doing the job anymore. So I appreciate that your generation has so much self-awareness that they are not that they're not going to be insulted by that, but they're going to take it as a learning opportunity. So I think that's awesome, and I appreciate that. And I'm hoping business owners realize that and use that to their advantage to say lots of conversation and mentoring and coaching means that you're not only going to be able to grow, but you're going to have really great, transparent conversations with Gen Z and be able to really make sure that the work is getting done in a really good and positive way too.
Yeah, and I think that if you plant that seed early, if you realize someone's doing a good job and has a potential to stay a long time at the company, really, really make that effort to build a relationship with them and plant that
Absolutely.
seed and say, you know what, you're doing a great job and I really don't want to see you go. Just be honest. Like, if Gen Z feels like someone really cares about them, they'll invest the time back into you if you invested in them. So if you give them good feedback and tell them there's an opportunity to grow, that will also help Gen Z stay at your company.
I love that. I think that's super important. Do you think that Gen Z has the capabilities of staying in a company and growing all the way up through the ranks? Or do you think it's going to take them three or four or five companies until they're more in their mid to late 30s, early 40s before they really settle into a position where they're going to live long time?
Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen super early in their career, but I think after they've experienced two, three, four, five companies, then they'll know what they want. And once you get to a company that you really like, then they'll be able to climb that ladder and get to the point that they want to be at. Because I think, like, in college, you're always told, like, for my generation, like, explore. You don't have to pick a major until like end of sophomore year. Explore different things, learn all these different things so that you can be a better, well-rounded person. And I feel like they kind of have that mindset with jobs too, a little bit. Like, jump around, do different roles and see what you like, you know?
Holy crow. So freaking different.
Yeah.
Okay. We had to have an idea of what we wanted as a degree before you went into college. So it's totally different. I don't know that I agree with what they're teaching in college about jump around from job to job kind of thing. As a business owner, it makes it more complicated because from this side of the table, and it's something that they don't teach you in college, but from this side of the table, depending upon the type of business, the cost to hire is incredibly expensive, right? So not the recruitment costs, those are minor. But most positions, it takes up to 6 months to train somebody for them to be productive into a role. And so you're losing productivity during that time period while you're paying somebody full cost for not doing full work, right? And then you're paying somebody else to take up the extra responsibilities during that time period. The quality of work is down, the quantity of work is down. So it's a very costly appointment to do this. And if you're losing people every 1 to 2 years in a transition, it is a constant turn. And so there's this excessive cost associated with it. So from a business perspective, it's very costly to have that kind of mentality. And so I highly doubt business owners appreciate what college professors are teaching, but it is what it is. I mean, it is just the way the work environment's going. So we as business owners have to figure out how to motivate and keep you as long as we can so that we can gain as much of that amazing skill set that you guys have in our own work environments. The other thing I want to stress for business owners that I know motivates you guys is that you are very creative and you have really great, smart ideas. And we need to stop assuming that you are coming in to do what we want you to do, but instead to give you the freedom to bring your ideas to the table. Because one of the things, and this is a great example that happened to me this morning, was Cara on our team. She said, you know what? I asked Beth to actually sit down and rework onboarding because we're developing an onboarding process for our clients. And she said, I asked Beth to help with an onboarding process because I want to see what Gen Z would think of it. And it blew my mind because I'm like, oh, you're right, because I know exactly how I onboard everybody. but I onboard everybody the way I would have been onboarded, which is totally different, potentially. I don't know for sure, but potentially different than how you would want to be onboarded. Right. And so we need to stop as business owners and say, whoa, wait a minute. Let's get the creativity, the ideas of Gen Z at the table because that's the next generation that we're trying to sell to, that we're trying to work for, etc. So we need you to bring your ideas to the table because you're going to know better than we are what needs to happen. And so not only should we invite you to the table, but we should shut up and listen to you at the table as well because that's going to help you be motivated and want to stay. But also, we're going to become much better at our jobs as business owners if we listen.
Definitely. And I also think what motivates Gen Z is having that really good company culture and connection. So it all comes down to that. If they feel comfortable speaking up in a meeting, if they're invited to give their ideas and opinions, then they're going to want to stay there if they feel comfortable with that group of people. So it really is all connected and super important to make that good culture and do all these things so that Gen Z stays.
Yeah. And I think that business owners would be wise in wanting to keep Gen Z to stay as long as possible. Not only in the positions that they start in, but for career growth inside the organization. Because we may laugh about this being their favorite object in the whole wide world, but because this has been their favorite object, they're super smart and they're super well read and they keep up on things that are going on and the new technologies that are happening and things that are happening in the world. And they are so energetic and they want to make such an impact in business that they are what the next generation really should be taking on in business, not just in general. And so we really should be trying to figure out how to keep them to move up and manage the next generation of employees, that next generation of alpha that's coming in, because Gen Z is going to know how to lead Gen Alpha, which none of us are going to figure out. So we should do a better job of motivating and keeping you in the workforce.
Yeah, and that's another thing that you just brought up. Like technology, really embracing that in the workforce is also something that Gen Z is going to be super interested in
Yeah.
because obviously we grew up with it. And it's a part of our daily lives. So if you embrace that and use it as a tool to allow the company to grow and for Gen Z to stay there, then that's also a huge advantage.
Yeah. And I appreciate that. And I think that inviting you to the table to help choose the technology or to revamp the technology is also important.
Yeah. I mean, like when I'm thinking about it, if you're scrolling on TikTok, like there are so many rabbit holes you can go down, and Gen Z is super, super curious. So if they find a topic that they like, they're gonna research the heck out of it. Like, and that's why it's super interesting seeing Gen Z enter the workforce because they are super passionate about whatever it is they're passionate about, you know, and they know so much about it. So it's really important to invest the technology, the time, and give the feedback that's necessary for Gen Z to be able to flourish in the workforce.
And you just pointed out something that I think is super important for us to remember. You guys are a very curious generation. We like to call you the snowflakes, and there's reasons. But I think we also should call you the curious generation because if we hand you a project and we let you go wild, we will have the best results possible because you are so curious. You will dive down and you know how to use every kind of technology to find the data and the information and you will dive down into it and you will find the best results for that project than anyone could because you know where to go to find all of the information and you won't stop until you find it all because that's what you guys are used to. And so I'm so appreciative of that. And so project management and really diving into projects is something that you guys are critically better at than anyone else I've seen.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, well, that was a fun one.
It was. I appreciated learning so much about it. And so I think that I now know how to motivate you to keep you going.
Yeah, just keep throwing things at me.
Exactly. More and more.
Okay, well, thank you all for tuning into the Fear of Snowflakes podcast, where every generation brings something worth listening to. We'll see you on the next one.
Thanks so much.